say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed to the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Order. Colors. Post. Face. Forward. March.
Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you, Keith. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Wasn't that a beautiful start for a beautiful afternoon performance? Wow. Thank you, Pueblo County High School Junior ROTC, and Keith Wagner, a longtime friend, business leader from the Arkansas Valley. Thank you for driving up and sharing your talents with us today. Thank you. Welcome to our second On Value Speaker Series of 2023. Hi, Henry. I didn't get to say hello to you a while ago. Well, I know most of you here. For those of you that don't, I'm Sparky Turner. I'm the new executive director here at the Center for American Values. Today is a very special day here at the center, as we are joined by not one but two distinguished Congressional Medal of Honor recipients. Our co-founder and Pueblo's own Drew Dix, thank you, and his lovely wife Patricia, thank you, as well as we have Staff Sergeant David Bellavia and Katie. You're back over there. We're going to hear from here in a bit. We have our distinguished board, as well as some of our founding donors here today. In addition, I'd like to extend a special thanks to Keith and Sharon Schwartzberger family for hosting today's On Values series. So thank you for that. We're honored to have that support. So thank you. We've got an incredible program, and at this time I'd like to introduce a special American. It's a principled business leader from Denver, Colorado, who grew up in western Kansas and has a deep appreciation for rural America. Miss Kim Munson, if you'll come up, and then I'm going to tell them a little bit as you're coming up, Kim. Kim is the host of two radio shows that broadcast across the Denver area under the KLZ 560 platforms, as well as her show, The Kim Munson Show, searches for truth and clarity about the issues we face today by looking at those issues through the lens of freedom versus force, force versus freedom. She's an inspiration and brings the stories of our veterans and military personnel to life, as well as her stories to the American veterans, other veterans, that includes other wars, Korea, as well as our World War II veterans, in which she's interviewed 220 of those. So we're very blessed to have her today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kim Munson. Oh, I better take my pen.
Thank you, Sparky, and thank you to all of you honored guests. It is indeed my honor to be here. This is a very special place, and very excited to have the honor to introduce Staff Sergeant David Bellavia. He's the first and only living Iraq war veteran to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor, which is our country's highest military honor. He was awarded this medal at the White House on June 25, 2019, surrounded by his family and every living member of his task force. Bellavia was awarded the Medal of Honor for heroic efforts on November 10, 2004, during the Third Battle of Fallujah, dramatic efforts that saved the lives of his unit members. He served 3 military campaigns: Kosovo, 2003, and Operation Iraqi Freedom 1 and Operation Iraqi Freedom 2. Bellavia enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1999 and chose to stay and fight following the September 11 terror attacks. That sense of duty was ingrained in Bellavia by his World War II veteran grandfather, who served in the Army during the Normandy campaign. Bellavia returned home in 2005 and founded advocacy organization Vets for Freedom, and in 2019 founded Deuce Deuce Relief Fund, which supports the soldiers of his former Task Force 2-2 in Iraq. It is my honor to introduce Staff Sergeant David Bellavia.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It's very kind. I don't know what's going on in Colorado, but I watched the movie Red Dawn, and the Cubans folded you boys up in like 10 minutes, right? But evidently, that's not what's happening out here. There's a lot of patriotism. There's a lot of veterans. I'm here because of one specific veteran, a guy that growing up in the Army, polishing my boots at Fort Benning, Georgia, looking up and reading those citations. The only one that I thought was just unbelievable was this guy named Drew Dix. And my drill sergeants told me that they named Fort Dix after him, which wasn't even true. But I drove on his parkway recently, and I was impressed with that. But I never in a million years thought, that I would get to meet Drew Dix, because I figured he had to be at least 6'10", right? 305 pounds. Bench pressing Rhode Island. This was the toughest guy I've ever seen in my life. And then I get the call from the President of the United States. I'm getting the Medal of Honor. I could handle that. That came out of nowhere. It was a little bit of a curveball. But the call from Drew Dix, I had to swipe that one. I couldn't handle. I had to be prepared. I had to be at target heart rate to handle that. That was a man, I knew what he represented. Drew Dix's citation is about not ever giving up. It didn't matter how many enemy were in front of him. It didn't matter the reasons why he was risking his life to protect innocent people, hostages, POWs, whatever it took for him to complete the objective. It was, I'm not leaving this fight without victory. No matter what happens, I'm going to claw your eyes out. That's all I needed as a non-commissioned officer. That was the standard. Everything else is going to fall into place. And that's why our Vietnam veterans, my granddad's still alive, by the way. Last week he turned 103. And he's a rock star. I grew up my entire life hearing those stories. Yeah, he's awesome. I grew up my entire life hearing stories, probably not the best stories for an 8-year-old to hear about the Normandy campaign and North Africa and Italy and whatnot. But John Brokaw dubbed them the greatest generation. And to be fair, the greatest generation, they knew they were at war, and they knew they had to win their war. And I give nothing but respect to a man I idolized my entire life. But the greatest generation of American is the American who serves their country and is treated poorly by ignorance by so many. And then when their sons and daughters go to war, the greatest generation of American is a generation that stands protecting us from what they endured. That's the Vietnam generation. That will always be the greatest generation of American that is alive today. They protected us from what they got. And oftentimes they protected us from the same idiots that went after them. The Center for American Values, what you stand for, what you represent, these faces, walking amongst, it's almost like we should take our shoes off in here, right? This is hallowed ground, and these stories and what they represent and who they were, they're all from, everyone wants diversity and equity. What do you see on the walls here? Do you not see diversity? Do you not see inclusion? That's what I learned in my Army. That's what made me a better person, a better citizen. I was surrounded by people. Civilians don't get this, but in the military, we love before we like. We still don't like the people we serve with, right? I mean, let's be honest. But we love them. That's tough. As a civilian, you get to know someone, you go out to dinner. Do I like you? And after a while, maybe I'll trust you, and then I'll love you. We do it backwards in the military, right? We love, we trust, maybe we'll like eventually. All I need to know is that you're willing to be right there next to me. That's it. Sign up on the line and be there next to me. I will do anything for you. What you love, knock yourself out. I don't care what you look like. I know you canceled my vote out in November. It doesn't matter to me. We are a team. We're a family. And to be a true patriot, we're a part of this team. We're wearing this jersey. Our friends need to trust us. Our enemies need to fear us. That makes a lot of people uncomfortable. A lot of people want to just, they want to just take a little NyQuil, maybe a few cocktails, go to sleep, hope the bad guys go away. Sometimes you got to pacify evil. Sometimes you have to be kinetic and proactive towards evil. But when I watched the towers like you did on September 11th, 2001, I could not get over the audacity of that. Just who do you think you are? I was embarrassed that when America, finally on our watch, when we get to the age where we're going to start making decisions and running stuff, that's when something like this happens on our soil. And I remember thinking about those people that had the choice between jumping or burning. The people that were not only used in the plane as a weapon system, but they're really trying to scare us. They're trying to make us change who we are and the way we lived our lives. And I didn't know what else to do. I'd never been to war before. I wasn't raised in Mogadishu. I don't know an RPG-5 from an RPG-7. My dad was a dentist, I didn't have I'm from Buffalo, New York. I didn't have any idea of, although losing 4 Super Bowls made me ready to go to war. I ain't going to lie. It fired me up. But I was thinking to myself, man, I hate these people. I hate them. Hate. That's how I was going to fight. That's how I was going to carry myself over the battlefield. I was going to fill my heart with the hatred that I had for what these animals did to us as a country. And I thought that would really get me through combat. And I remember we were in a fight. We had took 2 casualties. It was a 2-day fight right on the Iranian border. Had Quds forces, Iranian Revolutionary Guard running around. Our guys were doing everything that they should have done. I had a great platoon. I had great leaders. I'm an example of my leadership. I walk today because I had great officers. I had great NCOs. 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red One. We have our own movie, right? Luke Skywalker's in that movie. That's a really big deal. And Lee Marvin, no one seems to question why a 62-year-old man is a squad leader in that movie, but I don't know, he had a couple of DUIs or something, but he didn't get promoted. But anyway, I love the Big Red One. That was the legacy unit. And we're out there fighting against these guys. And in one circumstance, we just taken our 2 guys that got hit, and we medevaced them out. And from that side of the town, all of these windows started blinking. That PKM, belt-fed machine gun. And they're just chewing up asphalt around us. And everyone, you feel their eyes. You feel subordinates look at you. You don't have to look at them, but you realize, all right, when you're on a flight and there's turbulence, as a passenger, you can scream, "Oh my God, what's happening?" The pilot cannot come over the intercom and scream, "Oh my God, what is happening?" That's even Southwest. You're not allowed to do that. I'm saying you've got to be in control. You've got to be a leader. And the leaders are always going to be watched. So I'm looking around, and I got great team leaders. My soldiers, every one of these kids are just steely-eyed missile men. They are, I picked them. I watched them. I'm in awe of them. They are amazing. But we got a problem. And we're in a really bad spot. And so we start to realize the way these guys are getting supplied and what they're doing. We injure a guy behind a machine gun nest. And he's hurt. And he's hurt bad. And we trap him. And we get him right out in front of this building. And I hear him screaming. And out of that building come two kids. And these kids are talking to what appears to be their dad. And something triggers in my head, and I throw a smoke grenade, get those kids out of there. I don't want kids to get hit by an errant round. I don't want the kids to get hurt. And that's what everyone said I did a great job, is to get the kids out of the battlefield, because we're not Chinese, we're not Russians. We actually care for innocent people on the battlefield. We bleed and die for civilians in combat zones. But I really didn't want their dad to say goodbye to his kids. I really wanted to take that away from him. I wanted him to choke and die in that smoke. It felt good. It felt just. My friends got no opportunity to say goodbye to their parents. My friends got no opportunity to ever say goodbye to their children. This guy trying to murder me and murder my friends will have no mercy, will not get a chance to say goodbye. And that, it made me feel like Thor. And I learned something about hate. That hate is powerful. Hate gets you from point A to point B, but hate's like nitrous oxide. And hate will burn your engine up, and you've got nothing left. You got nothing to sustain. And that night, I realized that as much as I wanted to avenge, as much as I hated what this enemy represented, I couldn't sustain it. I was empty. I was hollow. I couldn't fight my enemy because I hated him. I had to fight my enemy because I loved my country. I loved my friends. I fought because I loved. I defended because I loved my culture, my way of life, my community, my soldiers, my army, my unit, my nation. We fight because we love. That's how you overcome evil. That's how you overcome hate. That's what sustains itself, and that is why America will always be the shining city on the hill. China can't touch it. Russia can't do it. Russia wanted to be here, by the way, ran out of gas right outside of the Denver airport. They can't do anything. Supply themselves. I almost want a rebate for all the times we trained for the Russian hordes, right? All those Soviet trips to National Training Center for what, right? Can't even fuel up. But here we are. And we're thinking, well, what's going to bring us to the next challenge? We got a lot of young people, and a lot of young people think that somehow we're the enemy because we disagree with each other. I got news for you. You're going to have people disagree with you for the rest of your life. That doesn't make anyone the enemy. Disagreement is at the very core of who we are as Americans. Everyone disagrees. Everyone has a point of view. That's not a reason to draw battle lines. We have a major problem with communication. We have a major problem with trust. We have a major problem, quite frankly, when it comes to who we are as a nation. There are people that look at America and they don't see a connection. They don't understand how we can separate ourselves from the 19th century. What happened in the 20th century? How do we move on knowing what the past was? These are all legitimate conversations. But we have to remind our citizens and remind everyone in this room that there is a pandemic that is deadly and contagious, and it has nothing to do with Wuhan. It is a pandemic of stupid. And I'm telling you, stupid is contagious and stupid is going to kill you. Stupid is everywhere. And stupid barnacles to greatness. Stupid connects itself to people that have their act together. And it is abundantly clear that stupid loves to polarize and divide Americans. That if there is a problem in this country, it's going to be because the cacophony of stupid is overriding the will of independent free men and women. There is nothing in this world that has dominion over you. There is nothing in this world that can control who you are or what you do. That is the beautiful, beautiful sacrifice of 400,000 men and women who are buried at Arlington. We are their legacy. They died for us. We live because of their sacrifice. And the important thing that I have to remind folks everywhere I go, especially young people, I used to take, 20 years ago, when I came home, I would have told you, and I love saying this to like English lit majors, art majors. I'm like, you know why you're able to play the piccolo? Because men like Drew Dick sacrificed for you. Do you know why you're able to learn your Brazilian basket weaving? Because Drew Dick sacrificed for you. I believed that 20 years ago. I said it multiple times. It made me feel good. But the truth is that now when I see these young kids, I'm reminded as an older man that their dreams, their ambition, their freedom, we didn't empower them to be free. They empower us to fight. You give us something to fight for. When you accomplish, when you dream, when you have ambition, that is what we're defending. What is America without people that have dreams and ambition? Without people exercising their freedom? Without writing a poem that no one wants to hear? Without hearing your acoustic guitar Christmas album at 52 that in 51 years no one ever said, you've got talent, you should record an album, but you did it anyway. That's freedom. And that's personal courage if you've heard some of that music. That's what America's all about. That's why we fight. That's what we're defending. And that is holy. And that is something that can never go quietly into the night. Hold your head up proud. Keep walking forward. Don't take a step backwards, because you are a part of the greatest experiment this world has ever known. And as many young people and as many people want to criticize America, remind them of the one entity that will shut them down every single time. It won't be from Colorado. It might not be from New York. It might not be from Texas. It's going to be from England and Brazil. It's going to be from Egypt and Israel, the world. The world needs us to dream. The world needs our power. The world needs our energy. The world needs our valor. The world needs our fight. That's who we are. That's the pedigree of American. That's why we know in our hearts that the United States of America is not an experiment that's in the ninth inning, or we're not going to the bullpen anytime soon. We are going to be on the map for a very long time because of people like you, of people like this center, and the leadership from American icons like Drew Dix. May God bless you. May God keep you safe, and may God have mercy on anyone stupid enough to challenge the United States of America. It's going to end in tears every single time. Thank you. Thanks. I'm sorry. We're going to open it up for some questions. You want some questions? I got answers, and if I don't have them, Drew has them. What questions do we have? Yes, it is an Air Force Medal of Honor on Remember the Ramrods' cover. I'm deeply ashamed, and I apologize. No, God bless the Air Force. Question in the back? Sure. We're going to do it Phil Donahue style. Exactly. All right.
Question? Who has a
We've
question?
got our... That's fantastic.
Vanna White, is that what you were going to call me, Vanna White?
Whatever you want to call
Okay.
yourself. I don't...
How would you describe patriotism?
You know, patriotism is knowing what team you're on and making that team a better team because you're part of it. It's also reminding the weaker members of your team there are certain responsibilities in being a team member. My team comes before no other team. Sometimes my team comes before myself. And patriotism is reminding citizens that we want you to be friends with us. We want you to be the best friend you've ever had in the United States of America. But we also want to make our enemies regret they were ever born. We want our enemies to think about dental school over picking up a firearm. We want our enemies to be reminded that why isn't mom and dad around? Well, mom and dad made a horrible mistake with their lives. They decided to threaten the United States of America and their friends. That's what patriotism is constantly remembering that you have the greatest team that you're part of, but with that team comes great responsibilities. And that is to scare the hell out of people that hate you, and it is to be the greatest, most loyal friend to the people that want to hide under your cloak when it rains. That's who we are. That's what we do.
Thank you. Anybody else back here?
Sir.
You refer to people who wonder about the health of the country, what side they're on in this country. If you were speaking to a group of college students, what would be your message?
Well, I mean, first of all, I get asked the question a lot of, what should this younger generation be prepared to do that my generation didn't prepare to do? I think we made a huge mistake in the 60s when we thought that communism is something that we could maybe make a pot of coffee and talk it down, right? I think a lot of people were confused with the Vietnam conflict as to what the intent was of the spread of communism, how we could actually kinetically go at it. But there are lessons to be learned in that fight. And, we talk about counterinsurgency in Iraq and how smart our generals were, but that was Vietnam lessons learned. Counterinsurgency wasn't invented by, General Petraeus. God bless General Petraeus. We didn't invent it. That was all from the Vietnam conflict. But the lessons about, disrupting supply chain and making sure that the enemy's uncomfortable completely fumbled in Afghanistan. So you look at a college kid today and they're like, well, are we going to be a nation of website developers? Are we going to be a nation of folks that are just going to share their feelings on social media, take photos of their dinner? What is the point of who we are? They have to be prepared to defend and protect. I think there's a tendency to think that, that serving your country is a family business, right? Your dad was a banker, you're a banker. Your dad was a Marine, you're a Marine. Your mom was in the Army, you're going to be in the Army too. We got to break that mold. College is breeding perpetual adolescence. That's what they want. They want to keep you as young as you possibly can be for as long as you can be, which is why Amazon is sold out on adult coloring books, right? And what do we do in the military? We crush adolescents into dust. We make men and women to shoulder the burdens of this country and the world. We make men and women. There's a huge difference. And so I'm saying, if you want to get a degree, go to college. If you want an education, go to the University of Fort Benning, Georgia. And that's where I got my PhD in human studies. Because I learned from other NCOs and other officers that look different than me, that love different than me, that worship different than me. There was even some Boston Red Sox fans there, which really annoyed me. But we made it happen. And I think that's what the best thing for young people is, that America, the message is never... The message is never wrong. The message works everywhere. The message of America works in our city, it works in our rural areas, and in our suburbs. It's always the messenger. The messenger is what's flawed, and it always has been in American history. The message of America is unique It's enriching. It's empowering. It fires you up. It makes you want to slap a terrorist across the face. It makes you want to feed a hungry person. What we have done as a nation, we blow up Japan, we rebuild Japan. We know that a rebuilt Japan is going to compete with us in 40 years. We do it anyway. Frankfurt, Germany is a better city because of the rebuilt West across from the other side of the Berlin Wall. Now you look at the areas where the Russians and the communists were, that's nicer than the other side of the Berlin Wall because that's been rebuilt. That's who we are. We fight. We're going to knock you out if you're a threat existentially. But then we're going to love you, we're going to rebuild you, and we're going to welcome you back to the international community. No country in mankind has ever done that. No one has shown benevolence and mercy when there was no reason to show benevolence and mercy. None were afforded to people like your dad out in the Pacific Campaign. They weren't showing love and respect in Bastogne to our American troops. But we showed love and mercy to our enemy. That's a beautiful thing, and it makes me proud to serve, makes me proud to be a citizen.
First of all, I want to thank you. I really enjoy being here and listening to you. I think you may have been here once before. Am I correct in that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Me, but some handsome devil looks just like me.
But
a couple of those running around.
You read the book House to House, right?
That's me.
Okay, and I read that book, and
Yes.
so I do appreciate that. I do
Thanks.
want to ask you a question about your challenges in transitioning from combat.
Please define that. That has double meanings now. We want to be careful.
Not the transitioning
Okay.
that's happening
All right.
a lot today. I'm talking about transitioning from combat,
There we go.
transitioning
All
from military life to civilian life. You know, in Drew Dix's generation, obviously, them coming back, you know, was a horrible kind of experience for them. And I wanted to just kind of get your, you know, look or outlook on how it happened for you, what was helpful for you, how that looked for you. I'd like to hear that.
Well, first of all, we have a cheat sheet because we've got the Vietnam generation standing before us, so we know we're going to be okay. We're looking at ourselves in the future. So what I've tried to do is just shut up and listen. And when someone has wisdom and advice for me, to listen, because they went through this before. They understand divorce. They understand addiction. They understand having friends that don't see a way out and make horrific permanent decisions instead of talking and dealing with issues. So that's a huge benefit that, quite frankly, the World War II generation wasn't all too considerate to our Vietnam heroes. They didn't really offer that same love and support at the VFWs. So they're giving us something that they didn't get. So we appreciate and respect that. But the other side is that, you know, I wrote that second book, Remember the Ramrods, because I thought I missed combat. I thought I missed war. I thought I missed adrenaline. And I realized that I really just missed knowing what my purpose was. I missed having a sense of belonging. I missed my friends, right? I didn't miss my friends while we were getting shot at. I miss knowing that I didn't need a governor to tell me I was essential. I knew it when I put my uniform on, you know, and so we have to remind veterans every single day that they have a purpose, and that really our service isn't when we're in our uniform. Our service is when we come home, because you want veterans in your community. You want veterans in your church. You want them coaching your kids. You want them mentoring your children. You want veterans in your life. There's a moral compass and a true north. These are good people. These are good men and women, and we want more of them. But we have to remind them that this is actually what they served for, this opportunity to make a difference. I feel today that talking to young people, sharing stories, who's going to tell their stories? There's over 160 names and 65 left. Who's going to talk about Hershey? Who's going to talk about Woody Williams, right? That's our responsibility. It's your responsibility. It's your responsibility. You know the number one recruiter? We have a recruiting crisis. You know whose fault that is? Ours. You should be recruiting. You should be reminding young people that this country is so fantastic. You should want to defend it. You should want to serve it. The military has the answers to every problem. You like universal health care, don't you? We got it. You want free education? I'll be your huckleberry. You want a reason to be a citizen in this country? Well, hey, I got a solution for you. How do you like bad haircuts? Welcome to the United States of America. We can solve all the problems of the world. All of them. I need you to remind people that this is an option. You know, is the military for everyone? No, but you know what is for everyone? You know what should be mandatory? Service. And I don't need the government to tell me to do it. I want people serving everywhere. You don't have to do it with rifles and grenades, although it's a whole lot more fun, to be honest with you. You don't have to do it that way, but you should want to serve. You should want to be a part of the solution for what America is going forward. That's our responsibility as citizens to tell folks, what are you talking about? Have you ever been? That's why people are risking their lives to come here? Because this place is miserable? You know, it's not informed. It's not an informed opinion.
We have another question here.
The general. There she is.
You have an American guts. This country needs someone like you, strong leader. Didn't you ever think of come as president? I will.
No, I don't. I appreciate that's really kind. You know what? This is.
I will vote for you.
You know, I think it blows me away that anyone could think that they could run for president, right? I mean, that statement aloud is like, we need a leader to bring us through the darkest of times. How about me? You know, like, who does that, right? Who says, I know someone for that job? That someone is me. Everyone sit down, right? No, I don't think that's our calling. I think that we need more people talking to young people. We need more people talking to African Americans. We don't have, listen, everyone's, we disagree. We have differences of opinions. We can't get along. That's garbage. I don't care if you're RuPaul. I don't care who you are, what way of life you live. We have far more in common than we have that separates us. There might be issues that we won't see eye to eye on, but do we want to live in a secure culture? Do we want people to be treated with dignity and respect? Do we want to be told what to do? No. There's a lot of insecurity out there. How much money do you have? What's in that gun safe? What do you got? What are you worried about? You're worried that if you had what I have, that you would use it because you would get so frustrated? Calm down. Everything's going to be all right. I need you. You need me. Realize right now that we are a community and we're only as strong as the individuals in our community. And America is not going to be fixed by an elected official. Those elected officials have no power over us. A president, a senator, a governor, even Hickenlooper, none of you are beholden to an elected official. We have the power. That's the beautiful experiment. We are in charge. We are the ones that are going to change the world and the country. All these folks can do is come up with all these regulations and laws that make us frustrated. But we're going to fix America. We're going to do it. We're going to do it with empathy and with love. We're going to be uncomfortable and have conversations with people we haven't spoken to before. We're going to go to zip codes that we probably haven't visited before and sit down and show love and compassion and realize if you're a bigot, if you're a racist, don't you think that person can be saved? How do you educate without loving? If I truly believe that I can change you, I could show you the light, I can make you better, that means that I believe in redemption. Cancel culture isn't redemption. Cancel culture is punitive. Cancel culture says, you disagree with me and you're evil. Go away. Go live on your island. And oh my God, what happens when hate exists alone on an island? It grows, right? It metastasizes and it becomes violent and dangerous. We've got to love and educate our way out of ignorance. And that means we sit down with people and we explain who we are. A lot of these kids just don't have any idea what this foundation of this country is, right? But then I promise you, we'll kick Kim Jong-un right in the face just for you. We will do that, I swear to God. I'll lead that charge. Tell him. All right.
Any more questions over here?
So some people would say that, well, let's just start by saying no civilization ever lasted forever. And there are some that will say that we are past the tipping point. King for a day, what would you tell this group and anybody who hears this message on how to get back from the cliff?
Well, the first thing is stop listening to Canadians. Those are the ones saying that, right? And we know why. No, look, you're right. You're absolutely right. But I'd like to think that when we look at history, and obviously the problem of looking at history through a prism of, the filter of the 21st century is always going to end in tears. It's very frustrating. But, the thing that's amazing about the United States is that, for every opportunity, even in spite of the efforts of people that want to implode our Constitution and our government, we're still here. I mean, think about that. There are people actively working to rewrite the Constitution of the United States. And we made the mistake of thinking those radical professors in 1966 and 67 went away. We thought we won them over, that they shaved their legs and armpits and got a shower in them. No, they just moved to another department and now they're the same people. It's amazing to see the people that were protesting the war are literally protesting today because it's romantic. It's nostalgic. And what are we told about nostalgia? Nostalgia is a condition. It's a symptom when everything is horrible. Everything's horrible. You want to go back to the past. When everyone's like, you know what's really cool? Voltron. You're like, oh no. You're watching cartoons from 1980. That's a sign that nothing's good on TV. It's a sign that we failed. And so we have to take romance out of protesting. We have to remind people that going back to that era, again, I had this really back and forth spirited debate about, global warming, about, climate change. And one of the things I found so fascinating is that for years when evangelical Christians talked about, sex education, the abstinence movement was something that was just completely, what are you doing? No, you can't tell people not to. No, abstinence doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. You can't just quit. You can't just have a moral compass and say, no, I'm waiting. That doesn't work. What if I want to quit cigarettes? You need Chantix to quit cigarettes. Everyone told you that. What if I want to quit drugs? You need another drug to quit drugs. What about oil? Stop immediately. Wait a second. The only time abstinence works is when you want it to work. So there is something about discipline. There is something about evolution and growth, but it's on your watch. It's through your filter. I'm all about diversity and inclusion and equity and all that great stuff. I just want to remind the people screaming the loudest with the green hair and the French bread and the berets that you need to practice it too. What's wrong with diversity of opinions? What's wrong with saying, I disagree? Are you that insecure about your point of view that when I question why, that was the thing everyone, a kid, Dad, why is the sky blue? What are you, Alex Trebek? Shut up, no one's asking you. You encourage kids to ask why. Educators loved that when you wanted to know why. I used to ask it all the time. If I had a Vietnam vet walking around before Iraq, you would have got a restraining order. I would have called every 5 minutes. What do I do now? What do I do then? What do you do? How did you do it, right? Now all of a sudden, it's inconvenient. And it's inconvenient because there's a certain side that doesn't have the answers. And I'm telling you what, God you don't believe in God, you don't think religion's all that great, everyone has a God. And their God right now is themselves and their point of view. And it's a big church. And when you don't have an answer, you're going to go to a math formula. You're going to go to an algorithm. And when that algorithm's wrong, you're going to go to some theory that some guy, literally, I mean, I hear people talk about, you're a Christian, you believe this. How could you back that up? That's crazy. I'm like, you're quoting a guy who was in a wheelchair for 60 years that has a voice box. You don't even know if it's him. You know what I'm saying? We're sitting there asking, what do you think is in the fourth galaxy, 1,000,000 years from here? And they're like, well, I think, and I'm like, it's not even coming from him. Who knows if you're not just like typing it into a computer? You want to talk about science and space? These are amazing things to talk about. Evolution, artificial intelligence, all of this, that our generation, this next group of kids, they're going to save the world. Because you called us couch potatoes, remember that? I forgive you. You said we were a bunch of losers in Generation X. We played on our PlayStation 1. But we did it for 25 hours a day. Remember that? Remember we cut those perfectly good jeans to look like we were pensive and alternative? Do you remember that? In our parents' basement until we were 25. And now guess what? We get into SeaWorld for free. The towers fell. Our generation got tested. Disney gives us a discount. And by the way, use that discount at Disney because they're not going to be there very long. They might actually, you might see the Epcot Center outside of Colorado Springs the way this thing's going to Florida. But the fact is, all the generation is going to do is get tested. And these kids that you don't understand, that you're confused by, they're going to answer the bell. And I've been all around this Army, all around the Marine Corps, all around our country. There are kids today that are better than we were. And that's tough to acknowledge because I like to think that we were the best. But this generation's ready to rock and roll, and they're going to be all right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
I needed that hope. And indeed, my friends, we do stand on the shoulders of giants, and we're among two of them here today. Major Drew Dennis Dix is a retired officer who served in the U.S. Army as a staff sergeant. He was the first enlisted Special Forces soldier to receive the Medal of Honor for his actions in the Vietnam War. By 1968, he had reached the rank of staff sergeant and was assigned as a military advisor to the Army of the Republic of Vietnam in South Vietnam, near the Cambodian border. On 31 January 1968, Viet Cong forces attacked Chow Phu. I was looking for the actual pronunciation in the first days of the Tet Offensive. Throughout that day and the next, Dix led groups of local fighters in rescuing endangered civilians and driving Viet Cong forces out of buildings in the city. For his heroic actions, he was awarded the Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor is awarded to individuals who took action and saved lives. And we're each called to take action and save lives. And that's why this place is so important. Drew Dix and Brad Padula are the co-founders of the Center for American Values. The Center for American Values is more than a place. It is here to honor the extreme sacrifices to help sustain America's values and ensure these extraordinary actions are preserved forever. It is indeed my honor to introduce Medal of Honor recipient Drew Dix.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. This is a special place, and David, you honor us with your presence, and I think when everyone leaves here, they'll have a different thought, perspective about some things. I do. And I'm also, I've said this to the other times we've gotten together, that 164 pictures, photos on the wall. I knew every one of them. And we're very proud, David, to have yours on here and unveil this. Because of the ones that are on the wall, we've probably only unveiled maybe 30 or so, or 40, that's a guess. It's those others, 130 or so, that we weren't able to because they had passed. And of course, quite frankly, the center wasn't here. or we would have done it. I like everyone to leave thinking that they understand a little more about what sacrifice is. And sacrifice, as David said so well, is that we love our fellow soldiers. Like family, sometimes we don't like them very much, but we do love them. And we've got a family growing here in the center. We've got a family that's spreading now across Colorado and up into Wyoming and down into New Mexico and other places. That's very important. Like-minded people thinking about things that matter are what's going to carry us forward. That's what's going to keep this country proud for the rest of the world to emulate. I would like to thank all of you for coming. Thank for the support that you give us. Spread the word. Spread the word that we're not bad folks here. Just because honor, integrity, and patriotism for some people are considered bad words, they aren't. I'm proud to say that I try to live by those. And that's what we can teach our young people. Honor, love your country, and do what's right. Not just because someone's looking. So right now, David, if you'd like to come back up, we'd like to formally unveil your portrait. I know that some of you have seen you up there. We fudge a little bit. It's borderline integrity thing, but we had him on the wall already.
What an incredible afternoon. Thank you all for joining. We're on a wave of really expanding and building upon the greatness of this organization. We're so grateful for all of your participation here today, and thank you for being here. And we'd like to have you please join us for some hors d'oeuvres immediately following. And it'll be hosted here tonight by 21 Steakhouse. And we hope you have safe travels home. So again, thank you for attending, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.